Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yes, it is Sunday and it's time for another live stream. Now, I'm just going to check my audio level looks right on my side. Yes, it does. Howdy, everyone. I hope you are safe and well. Yes, we've gone live tonight. I was absent last week, unfortunately. However, I'm fine, back to normal, back to same old, back to mad me as always. Whilst in the past I even streamed through COVID, what wiped me out last week, it was not going to happen. It was just not going to happen. So I'm okay. I am absolutely fine, other than filled with green gunk. So whilst we've had a week off, has there been a lot to talk about? There really hasn't been a lot to talk about, actually. We didn't miss much. However, we are in the thrust or the build-up of something which is OcuSync 3, and I want to talk a little bit about, does it really matter? And I'm going to try and not get myself into trouble tonight, because I don't have one, but I know some people who do. I believe the KOLs have been sent out models. I don't know who has and hasn't. There are some people in the background I have spoken to who I do know have them, and it's interesting. And actually, there's a lot of whispers around the internet, and I want to address some of them, but what I want to do is go back on a live stream that I did about 6 months ago, because I think I've called it pretty well, actually, in that live stream, where I said this product isn't going to be for everyone. And the more I'm hearing, the more that's going to be the case. So we're going to talk a bit about that. We're going to talk about the new Avatar HD firmware update and the deal that Rotoria are doing, and we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. I actually flew the new firmware today, finally. The weather's been atrocious, the health's been atrocious. But I also want to talk about the deal that Rotoria are offering as well, which is they will give you your money back if you're not happy with the system. 30-day money-back guarantee. And we'll talk about whatever else comes along the way as well. Now, as always, we have you amazing people in the chat. There's 97 of you. Hello, let me just close the box where YouTube says, would you like to put an ad up? No, I wouldn't like to put an ad up. I'm not going to go through everyone's name. I saw Bruce in early doors. Hiya, Bruce. How are you, my friend? Dennis, Jay's Drones, Roddy. How are you? Bobby Bags. How are you, my friend? Dennis, Stream Elements, Roddy, Joshua Gibbon. How are you? Dennis Jackal, Mike Bergman, how are you, Mike? Hope you're well. GMI, hello, GMI. BB Junkie, Ken Leaper, DLMI, hello, my friend, how are you? Expander, hello. I'm Peppermint, hello, Peppermint, how are you? FPV Giggles, Mathis FPV, and Jorg Jow, how are you? So, as always, guys, if you have any questions, please do put them in the chat and I will try and answer them as soon as I possibly can. As always on the live stream, please do give it a like if you do find this video interesting. And super chats are welcome, although they're not required for me to answer questions. Now, this one is going to be a bit of a talking head because I got to try not to get myself in trouble on this one, and I've been sworn to secrecy on some stuff which I'm not going to talk about, but I do want to talk a bit about what is public information already, and that is that we do know that a bunch of people have had access to this O3A unit for some time, but from my understanding is that KOLs have received some stuff this week. So we're on a build up to a launch. I put a post up on my community page for those who've seen. I put that up a few days ago. Let me just find that. And I put that up based on some information that was shared with me that we are looking like there's going to be a launch around mid-November. 15th to 17th is where the noise seems to be at the moment. KOLs are key opinion leaders. The likes of people who are KOLs could be Bot Grinder, Joshua Bardwell, arguably me would be in that category. I'm not someone who is going to have one from DJI. They have not reached out to me. I don't know genuinely who they have or haven't reached out to on a bigger level. I don't really talk to those people, or at least they don't talk back. That's all I'll say. They haven't sent me one. I haven't heard from DJI, but it's hardly surprising when you have videos on the channel saying things like why I hate DJI. But no, I'm okay, Bruce. I know Bot Grinder. I mean those kind, Nick, JB, Rotoria, and some much smaller people as well. I am aware of some channels around the same size as mine. Nick will definitely have it because he's been covering a lot of the DJI stuff recently. So I did put up this community post when I found my mouse pointer, based on some information that was shared with me, which was this one here. Desktop, here we go. O3 is coming. And what I shared with this was standalone price seems to be around the $220 to $280 US, around the $260. It'll also be widely available as a standalone unit, i.e., around the same size as a Vista. There has been a lot of talk of issues whispering around the internet on this O3A unit for some time. Overheating and issues with the image stabilization system. Now, I've heard two different stories with the image stabilization system. The story number one is that the IMU is in the air unit and not the camera or the gyros, and as such, your camera angle has an effect on the stabilization performance in gyroflow. But I've also heard, and I think Blunty was the one who said this, that there's reports of DJI were expecting people to soft mount the camera. Now that would hint that the gyro would be in the camera, unless there's other issues that we don't know about, such as jello. But I've heard there's problems with image stabilization. I have heard from multiple different sources, and just to be clear, Blunty was the first one. Blunty was the first one I think I seen said this, but I've now heard this completely independently, that these things overheat quicker than probably any other air unit out there, or as close to any other air unit out there, but really fast. And there are reports of them overheating in flight as well. Kilbree, so can it be swapped the Vista for the O3A unit? Size-wise, the O3A unit is basically the same size as the Vista, as I understand it, apart from being about 1 mil taller. It does have recording built in, but I'm not hearing good things. Now, there was some spec leak on this a while ago that is worth taking into account, and that spec leak actually also directly applies to the Avata, and that is that the likelihood is the latency on the O3 system is going to be higher than the current DJI system. And part of the reason for that is the fact that it's using the Eagle 3 chipset, so they're having to pipe the image through additional processing for image stabilization and things like that, but also because of the higher image quality. Now, the leaked spec that I've seen also implies that the O3 Air unit is going to have maybe 10 milliseconds more latency than the current DJI FPV system, which is the same as the Avata. What is really interesting, though, is I've heard no one complain about the latency on the Avata. So what will be interesting is how people interpret this latency. And I'm sure there'll be some very, very good reviews covering that subject, specifically once the product is released. But there hasn't really been talk of the latency on the Avata, but it is like 10 milliseconds more than the FPV system. So this is one thing to take into account, that, and we've seen that in the specs. It also remains to be seen if it has the same image quality as the Avata. Whilst we are assuming the O3 system is going to look as good as the Avata, we haven't actually seen footage from it yet, and we need to wait and see. So it may not quite be what everyone expects. Now, I will be getting one either at launch or shortly afterwards. There will be a whole slew of reviews on day one. I don't know who does. I don't know who doesn't have one. My belief is it does have OSD support, but it's not clear. I think DJI have expanded MSP OSD Quick Flash, but I don't believe it's canvas mode. But I could be wrong on that. That question hasn't been answered to me. Now, there is a possibility I will have one before launch or at launch. It won't be from DJI, but I have had someone reach out. So there is a possibility I will be able to do a launch day video on it. But if I don't, I'll order one when it comes in. And as always, I will share with you my thoughts. We don't know the cost of the replacement camera. We don't know a lot of that. Will a Mini 3 Pro ever be goggles capable? Hold this space on that. Just hold this space on that. Now, all of the noises I have heard are also that DJI are working on backwards compatibility for these on the current system. So that comment that Nerk put out, and then it came from a number of others, that looks to be true. Okay? DJI haven't said it. But not that I was ever questioning Nerk or Kendobo or any of the others, but it was told to them from a rep. However, I have seen evidence of it being the case, and I'm sure someone will share proper evidence of that in the near future, but they are definitely working on backwards compatibility for the Goggles 2 with the current system. Now, this is where things get really interesting. So we have O3 coming, which is probably going to be expensive. It's going to have some new features, but it might not suit everyone else. However, I think DJI could play a complete blinder here and keep the Vista running alone and have two systems going at the same time and really give some other manufacturers a problem. Because if DJI keep both systems running at the same time, you could have the Vista as a lower cost system, which works with all three sets of goggles at that point. But then the O3 unit, which works with two sets of goggles, O3 on the V2s and O3 on the new ones. We'll come on to that in a minute, Expander. I'm not convinced, and I've said this before, that O3 is going to be for everyone. I'm going to wait and see for myself, but I will be honest, early noise that I've heard, people are not impressed. Now, the current system wasn't that impressive on day one either. But it's not sounding good. No, you can't, Bruce. I'm not convinced we're going to get full OcuSync 3 like on this with that amazing camera on the O3. I'm just not convinced of it. I'm not convinced of it. But we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see. But it is coming. But I'm not convinced it matters, because right now, if they bring, and it looks like they are, backwards compatibility to this, we're going to need a route for this to give us FPV WTF OSD, because remember, these aren't rooted yet. So just because DJI bring backwards compatibility to these, it doesn't mean you're going to get OSD with the ear unit on these goggles, because that's a whole other process that needs to be done later down the line. So today, though, with the V2s, with the ear unit, you're going to have a lot of options with the Vista or the DJI ear unit. I think the DJI ear unit will end. Whatever happens, I think the DJI ear unit will end. But I would like to think DJI are going to keep the Vista around, especially since Runcam are making cameras. I think there's a good chance we'll see that. If they did, Bruce, yeah. We don't know, it hasn't got canvas mode, but it is worth noting that even if they bring the old system support, then the guys are going to have to route these. I think they've got an in on that already. But then you're going to have FPV WTFOS on this, which could take some time. I'm not saying it won't happen. The guys will be working on that, but it will take some time. So if you're using the current system with that OSD, like many of us now are, you might want to hold off on these goggles until that happens. It's going to take some time. There is also some other interesting stuff I want to see on O3 is how the radio system performs, because this week I'm planning on putting out the video on the radio system on the Avata. Now, I've been holding back on this to wait and see if the ear unit drops earlier so I can sort of do it as a combined video, but I'm not. I'm going to do it as a separate video. And there is some fundamental differences in how the RF behavior works on the Avata than it does to the DJI digital FPV system and DJI's current drones. They do not line up on channels. Even when using 20 megahertz mode or 25 megabits, right? 1 to 7 on this is not the same 1 to 7 as raceband, and it is not the same 1 to 7 as DJI's current FPV system. When in 40 megahertz mode or 50 megabits a second, because the megahertz mode is the carrier width, so the thing to understand is DJI on the Avata label it as carrier width, whereas on the FPV system they label it as megabits a second. So on this you've got 10, 20 and 40 megahertz carrier width. We don't have 10 megahertz on the FPV system. We have 20 megahertz, which is 25 megabits a second, or 40 megahertz, which is 50 megabits a second. And when this is in 50 mode or 40 megahertz, again, it is not the same channel allocation as the DJI FPV system in 50 megabits a second. So there is an overlap. But more than that, this system pumps out a crap ton of other RF that the other system doesn't do when in manual mode. What's actually interesting is if you are flying the Avata around other pilots, use it in auto, not manual. I strongly advise using it in auto because it then shifts the telemetry and RC over to 2.4 gigs rather than 5 gigs. However, you don't have a manual option on the Avata to force it into 2.4 gig mode for telemetry. So whilst the Avata is dual band in the sense of video is 5 gigs only, but RC and telemetry link are dual band, 2.4 or 5 gigs, when using it in manual mode, you only have 5 gigs. You have to use auto on the Avata to get it into 2.4 gigs mode. And when in 5 gigs mode, it is outputting RF pretty much from, let me just get the frequency here, from 5740 to 5823. Actually, no, it's worse than that. It's the RC side of things is outputting RF from 5729 to 5844. Which is a huge sleuth of the band. But it is interesting when you have a look at the Avata and its frequency allocation compared to the other DJI gear. It is not the same. What's quite amusing or interesting is, and I'll share this little hint, the Avata, for the first 3 channels, the carrier starts on the center frequency of the FPV system, but only for the first 3 channels. So just to give you an idea on that, DJI FPV system is 5660 center frequency on channel 1 on 5660 on 25 megabits. The Avata is 5669. It's about 10 megahertz up. So it's quite interesting the way DJI have done it. Now I'm looking to modify a frequency reference chart. This one, actually. I'm going to do a modification of this just to try and show it, because I don't want to make one from scratch. If I'd like, I need to speak to the Prop Washed, actually. Speak to these guys, whoever made this, because RC Shim's put some data into this. It'd be great to actually put it in officially, but I'm going to do like a modded version in a minute, and I'll make it clear that it's modded just to show it, and just say modded by Mad Tech for the Avata or something stupid down here, just to show it on there. Do we know which controller the O3 air unit will use? I can't tell you that. Or a version of it. As for the Black RC, I think the Black RC is now dead. I think the Black RC is now over. If you can get one of them. The thing to understand with the air unit and the O3 and the Avata, they're basically the same platform. There's technically, Bruce, there's no reason they couldn't do it, in my opinion, but I doubt they will. Technically, there is no reason they couldn't make that compatible, in my opinion, but I doubt they will. What is going to be interesting to see as well, and this is something I have heard, with DJI working on backwards compatibility, that backwards compatibility on your air units requires an update. So it's not going to be as simple as these goggles just get an update to work with the old air units. You're going to have to upgrade the firmware on all your old air units as well, if you want them to work with the goggles too. So it's going to be a bit more than just backwards compatibility on the goggles too. The goggles too are really interesting. You know what? I'm going to talk a bit about the goggles too. These are the most polarizing product I think I've seen from DJI in quite some time, and that is because I think the fitment on these goggles is pretty poor for me. They crush my nose, they fog easily, and I'll be honest, the optics are not great for me. They don't align well at all. And I realized today, flying both these and the Avatar, just how bad these are. Yet there are people that say these are perfect for them. So it is quite interesting that these goggles are definitely very dependent on your head size and style. Very dependent on your head size and style. But yeah, you do get a very big mixed response to these. Far more people have said they're okay than I anticipated, because I thought a lot of people would say they're bad. The goggles are nice, but the optics just are not great. Just not great at all. You know, you tolerate it. Don't get me wrong. And I probably still need to do some more work on the foam. I've been waiting to see if the foam comes out. That helps a little bit. But they are definitely hit and miss. Funny enough, there was some talk the other day. I haven't seen... Yeah, definitely blurry edges. I haven't seen any third-party antennas yet, but they can't be long before someone does them. They just don't align. I just don't get the optics to... I cannot get a fully converged display okay on these goggles. I really can't. Not like the Avatar goggles, like the V2s. They're nice goggles. The form factor is fantastic, but they are compromised. Shouldn't have to. Yeah, I think they've overdone it on the size. They have overdone. I think they should have probably gone 10% bigger, and they'd have then been able to accommodate more head shapes. I do need to get another foam and start cutting mine out. JB did a poll today on the different systems. Did he? I haven't watched. But I actually think right now the best buy is still the current FPV system. Pot Tracer, Mike, how are you? I still think the current FPV system is the best buy, and I think it will be for the next 3 or 4 months. I'm not convinced 03 is going to be perfect for everyone. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. And look, there's a lot of good options out there right now, but we're going to have to wait and see. Now, that's all I can really say on it right now. I don't have one. I don't know which ones do. I would expect JB to get his hands on one sooner than later, so we'll have JB's thoughts on it. I'll give you mine, as always, regardless if I get it before launch or not. I will be discussing the product, and I will be, as always, giving you my genuine thoughts. I'm not shocked that DJI haven't reached out based on some of the comments in recent times, but look, if they don't want the truth, I can't help that. At the end of the day, I am always fair in my content. I am never unreasonable, and I am never unfair. I will turn around and say, don't buy a product if I think it has a fundamental issue, like I did on the V2s, like I did on the Avatar for the falling out of the sky issue. But that's what I feel is the right thing to do. If manufacturers don't like that, then I can't help that. At the end of the day, if DJI want the product to stand up, if the product stands up, they'll have no reason not to send me one, but they won't. So it's unlikely. It's unlikely. At the end of the day, I'm probably one of the top 3 content creators on DJI's FPV system, and it is interesting that they haven't reached out. I could even arguably be in the top 2 with the amount of content I've made on the system. If you search YouTube for the DJI Digital FPV, I can guarantee I'll have videos in the top 5, let alone top 10. So that's just FPV. So there we got a live stream, today's. But if we now search for DJI FPV system, I usually have videos. Oh, look, they're not there now. I'm being pushed down by YouTube. DJI, it might be because it's digital. YouTube's pushing me down. I'm not sure will it show me my own videos as well. Chris Ross has made one. Look at this. My videos have been pushed down. That's quite funny. There's the first one, look. That's interesting. At one point, I had like 3 videos in the top 5. 3 videos in the top 5. I have a few pros in the UK wanting 03, lots of live stream potential. Yes, if it has the better image quality. That's the real key here, isn't it? If it has the best image quality. Interesting. I'm getting delisted on my own videos now. That's interesting, but we're going to have to see. And look, you know, this slides us nicely into the next subject, which will be the Avatar HD system. Now, before we do that, I just want to go back up and answer a question, because I said I'd come back to that. Let me just have a look where it was. Someone asked a question earlier. Please do give us a like if you guys find this video interesting. Expander, were there any updates to WTOF OS? Nothing yet. Nothing's changed majorly yet. They're working on the fonts. Nothing is happening as we speak at this moment in time. The guys are beavering away in the background. And then there was another question. Liquid cooled VTX. Oh, there it was. Any new info on 1080p 30 frames mode for HDZero? Profit 11236. No. I think a lot of that will come clear when the goggles come out. Remember, you're going to need the HDZero goggles for that 1080p mode. I don't think it's on the ear unit, on the VRX. Mad, with WTOF dev work a hack for the range limit on DJI? Anything is possible, but it's certainly not on the it's going to happen tomorrow. They have a lot of access to the system, but that is some pretty deep tuning of the system, and finding that is going to be difficult. If you remember the live stream I did with them, they are open to working with people on it. It's absolutely possible, but it certainly isn't there for today. And it could not be for 6 months. 03 likely will have the same range limit, potentially, but DJI may have lifted it. Most people's opinion is that the range limit was just an arbitrary number that DJI put in. That's just what it was, but we're going to have to wait and see. Anyone know about the FCC hack not working on the Runcam Wasp? As far as we're aware, it's fine, although, was it Oscar Lang or whoever it was had one which wouldn't hack? Oscar Liang or whoever it was had one that wouldn't work. But Runcam have said it works absolutely fine. The FPV.WTF team had a look at the firmware differences, and as far as they can tell, there's been no changes on DJI side to affect the FCC hacks. There's been no intentional changes, and there doesn't appear to be any unintentional changes either. So as far as we're aware, the FCC hacks and stuff still work. I haven't got a Wasp. Is it available to order yet? Is it actually... What are they charging? $139. I could order one in, but I'm not sure it's any point me doing a review. Everyone's done one already. If Runcam want to send me one, I'll talk about it, but I'm not going to... There is very little difference. So how much better is the full ear unit in range penetration versus the Vista? There's very little performance difference for most people. I will absolutely review HDZero when the goggles come out. I have made a lot of HDZero content. I haven't made so much recently because there's not really been a lot to talk about recently. You know, Ryan's pushing out a ton of content on the system at the moment. You've got loads of videos coming out showing the goggles. I can only review the goggles when they come out. That's all I can do. You know, there's not been a lot to really discuss on HDZero for a while, in the sense of they've had a couple of new cameras that really haven't changed much. What will happen with the new goggles is you're going to have the new goggles, and you're going to have potentially this 90 frames a second mode and this 1080p mode to discuss. So there's a lot of changes coming at the same time. Right now, there isn't really a huge amount. Have I checked MSP VTX? I had a look at it, but it's something that was in early dev. When I looked at it, it was in the dev version of Betaflight. So until it really comes into public Betaflight, it's hard to really talk about it. Has it actually made a public release yet? MSP, you know, the MSP VTX feature is nice. Look, it sends the data to the VTX to tell it what its configuration is, so it knows its channels, it knows the modes, and it has the setup done. That's a nice feature. Okay. I did have plans to actually do a full Express ELRS backpack functionality feature with HDZero, but I'm still struggling getting it to work. So I need to spend some time looking at that again. Cool Cat. Ian, on JB's Q stream earlier, someone asked about the flight controller with the little orange box on it. $500 and it looked very nice. What is it for? Are you talking... 1 second. Overhead. Are you talking about the Cube Orange? Oh, I need to reboot OBS. Look at the jar. Look at that. Look at the frames. That's horrible. Are you talking about that? The Cube Orange. Sorry about the thing. Yep, Cube Orange. Okay. So this isn't for FPV in the sense of you're not going to get this in a 5-inch frame. This is the Lego flight controller. This is a high-end flight controller designed for PX4 or Ardra Pilot. Doesn't run iNav, doesn't run Betaflight. Probably the most reliable higher-end flight controller outside of some stupid $10,000 commercial stuff out there. And even then, I would argue this is as reliable as them. Triple IMUs, 2 of them vibration isolated, dual baro sensors, full Mavlink CAN bus support as well. It's a flight controller for bigger birds. It's what it is. It's designed for Ardra Pilot and PX4 specifically. Some of the best autopilots on the market by Cube Pilot. They really, really are. There are thousands of cubes out there doing thousands of air miles a day, doing stuff most people don't even know exist. Yeah, it does. It's got triple redundant IMUs. So you've got 3 IMUs, of which 2 of them are on an internal vibration isolated board. And 1 of them is on what we call the FMU, which is the main control board. So what you have in that unit is the main control board, which has the flight controller SoC on it. That's running a H7. On that main board, you just have a baro and a single IMU. You then have a vibration-isolated secondary board in rubber, which is heated, so it's temperature-controlled, and it has 2 additional IMUs on board as well for redundancy. And the way it works is Ardra Pilot is able to run all 3 of those IMUs at the same time, and they run them in what they call EKFs. So Ardra Pilot basically pools all of the data and then produces an output based on all of that data. So it doesn't choose as such which IMU to just use. It runs EKF1, EKF2, and EKF3. And EKF is sort of an instance of the flight controller. So imagine it a bit like having multiple operating systems. And then you can actually, you have 1 IMU on 1 EKF, and if you've got multiple GPSs, for instance, and multiple baro sensors and multiple compasses, so you could have 1 EKF, which will have 1 IMU, 1 compass, 1 GPS, and the other EKF with 1 IMU, 1 compass and GPS, and the other one, and then it will pool all of that data together, and it will choose the one which suits the best performance for the system, and if there's an error, it will then exclude one and push it out. There is huge amounts of cleverness that's gone on, far beyond what we use in traditional FPV. But it's a very, very, very good piece of kit. It really is. So that explains that. So the next subject is Avatar HD. Now, before we talk about Avatar HD, we're going to first of all talk about Rotoria, because Rotoria are doing a deal right now. So if I go to the homepage, and the deal is you can order the Fat Shark Dominator FPV goggles. They are now doing free shipping to the UK and EU from America. And they are giving you a 30-day money-back guarantee. So, if you order it and you don't like the system, they are saying, from now until November the 30th, 2022, purchase the Fat Shark Dominator and Avatar VTX, try it for 30 days, and if you don't like them, send them back for a full refund. Now, they say click here to see full details. So we're going to have a look at the details because we want to make sure that they're not scamming us. And I don't believe for 1 minute they will be. However, I just want to make sure that they're not. Making the switch applies to Fat Shark Dominator goggles, VTX. Antenna must be purchased in the same order. So they'll give you your money back for the antennas as well. Terms. Okay, let's check the terms. Order must be placed before the 1st of December. Returns must be requested by email within 30 days of receiving the order. So 30 days from receiving, which is good. Okay, so if the shipping is 2 weeks, then make sure you log that. And then a refund will be issued within 5 days of them receiving your return package. No, they won't take goggles back for another retailer. Do I need a voucher? No. Is there a limit to how many goggles? 1 handset and 1 VTX per customer can be returned as part of the promotion. Okay, that is interesting, okay? 1 headset and 1 VTX. They are doing deals where there are multiple VTXs. So if you're going to take up this deal, make sure that you only order the 1 VTX kit. If I order more than just the goggles and VTX, can I return everything? No, they are only going to accept the return of that. Within the US, they will cover shipping. However, outside the US, you will need to purchase your own shipping. So take that into account if you're buying from the UK or EU. What condition do the products have to be in? You can return the Fat Shark Dominator headset and Avatar in used working condition. Normal signs of wear and tear are okay. Please do not intentionally make permanent modifications to this product. Okay, so they're not saying it has to be perfect either. And I say, if I buy a Rotoria drone with the Avatar, could I still return the VTX? You're not able to return the entire drone, but you can remove the Avatar VTX from your drone and return it to us to get a refund. Okay, so the conditions here are not terrible. That's okay. I've got no issues with that. But the only thing I would say is, and I do think then they're being a little bit naughty here, is that they are saying you can only return 1 goggles and 1 VTX. Yet if you look here, this says 30-day money-back guarantee. 30-day money-back guarantee. 30-day money-back guarantee. 30-day money-back guarantee. So, I do think they need to clarify this a little bit better than they have. Because right now, you could think, well, you know what? I'm going to get that kit there because that would suit me better. I'm going to get the Avatar with nano camera. I'm going to get... What are we getting in this kit? So is that 1 VTX? Oh, no, wait there. Avatar VTX with nano or macro camera. You can get antennas and then you can add a battery. Okay, so is that image then just showing multiple VTXs? Because that's a bit confusing. See, that image there shows multiple VTXs, which is interesting. So that almost implies it's a kit. That was my assumption, but perhaps it isn't. Avatar VTX. You wanted the antennas and then no battery. So that's not too bad. That's okay. That, though, I think is where things get a little bit dodgy, is where they're showing here, look, 30-day money-back guarantee on an image with the TX12, some batteries and the drone, and their terms and conditions state that you can only return the goggles and one VTX. So I do think they are being a little bit misleading here. Only a little, but they are. Now, I think it's interesting to see this deal come up. It's a shame I haven't actually got... Why haven't I got thing working today? For some reason, NVIDIA isn't working. That's my webcam mover. Let me just move forward to have a look a minute. Just go back on my desktop a minute. For some reason... Oh, yeah, it is the... NSync isn't working as always. NVIDIA broadcast. See if this kicks in. It's playing up no end at the moment. NVIDIA broadcast. Camera. Is it going to work? Always changes the camera. Oh, there I am there. And if I now turn that on... Hey! I'm in the middle of the screen. There we go. Oh, I'm a little one. There we go. Sorry, I'm working again now. So, I do think they're being a little bit naughty on that. Now, as for, is it a good deal? Well, it's an option for you. Have you got anything to lose? Yes. If you buy a bundle and you want to send the whole bundle back, you can't, because the terms and conditions say you can't. So, now, we could read into this that sales for the system hasn't been going great. I can't comment on that. It's hard for me to say yes or no. I get the impression they haven't, but it's hard to say for sure. None of us really know. It would purely be speculation for me to say that it's going good or not. What I will say, though, is this. Today, I updated to the new firmware for the Avatar HD system, and I think it's very close now. I flew it. I tested it at the beach very quickly, 2 packs because the tide was coming in, and I wanted to check its dark shadow behavior more than anything. And whilst it does still go very dark, I jacked the EV up to plus 0.3, and I have to say, I think it's close now. I think it's close. The signal behavior, I think, is much better. It seems more progressive as the signal drops off, for sure. It definitely does. It's certainly not as cliff edge as it was. I think it looks decent. I think it's okay. I think it's getting there. Now, there is some stuff I'm still not 100% happy about, which is the FCC filings are still not fully out there, and there's no evidence of CE filings, and I have some suspicions that things aren't quite what they seem. However, the goggles are good. The reliability on the VTXs seems to have improved. We've got a 1S VTX. I think it's close. You know, up till now, I've still been not willing to say it's a suitable system. I'm going to fully review it again when 03 comes out and look at all of them together, and then decide what I feel about it. It is, though, getting close. The new firmware is definitely better. The new firmware is definitely better. Today I was pleasantly surprised by it. I definitely was pleasantly surprised. It's interesting, though. It's definitely coming on, and they have had a bit of a delay. Yeah, and this is Walksnail, and this is a really interesting point. Profit 11236. So his comment is, if you don't fly whoops and only 3 plus size quads, fixed wing, and don't fly past the hard range of DJI, then what's the point of Walksnail? And let's be honest, the very fact that you can now have full OSD on DJI current FPV system makes the Avatar system a tougher sell. It genuinely does make it a tougher sell today. It's going to be, it's harder to argue why. It really is. It wasn't before because if you wanted full OSD. But it is a tougher argument today. And if DJI do this, if DJI release the new 03 system, backwards compatibility on the goggles too, we get WTF OS on the goggles too, and they keep the Vista in production, and then you have basically the option of the goggles V2, the goggles V1 on the existing system, or the goggles 2, or 03 on the goggles V2 and the goggles 2, and they keep the systems running parallel with the Vista or Link ear unit being the budget end and 03 being the high end. I think Avatar has a real problem, because you're going to then be in a position of being able to go and buy whatever set of DJI goggles you want and use them with whatever ear unit you want, depending on your price point. And DJI could cover the low and high-end digital market in one hit here. So it is going to be interesting. It is going to be interesting to see. But the Avatar goggles are very good. I do like the Avatar goggles. They do fit very well. So then it's going to come down to what system best suits your needs. Avatar is very close to the current DJI system today. It's very, very close. When I flew it today, I was more than happy with it. It was fine. I put it out to some range. I did some close range stuff, put it in the bushes. It was fine. It's better. It's not 100%, but it's better. I'm pleasantly surprised at where the new firmware is at. But it's going to be hard to beat DJI, the Goliath in the industry, who has the ability to outprice and outmatch everyone. Interesting comment there, Pacific. Fat Shark should have stuck with HDZero for the Dominator. I think you're right. I think you're right. But this deal is here if you want it. But do just take into account, I'm not 100% with the way they've advertised this. Whilst the deal looks decent, when you read the terms and conditions, the 30-day money-back guarantee is only on the goggles and VTX. So I do think this is a little bit misleading. And if we go into this, they do list it. To be fair to them, I will add this actually, and I haven't said this already. Actually, they are clear at the top that the 30-day money-back guarantee applies to Dominator goggles and VTX and antennas only. So, okay, I think we have to be fair with them on that. They are, I do think that's a bit, but they are spelling it out there. They are spelling it out there. So it's hard to be a bit thing on them. I think if you're interested in trying the system, it's a good deal. What remains to be seen though is how easy it's going to be for people to get their money back. There has been a comment, and I found this rather interesting, is this period over the next period of their accountancy which means they'll get a load of sales in the accounting period, but that accounting period won't have to account for the refunds, so you won't see that till the next accounting period. Now, I don't know if that is the case, but watch this space. If that is the case, and then suddenly a bunch of people with shares at Red Cat decide to sell them, then we all know what this was about. And do remember this little fact. A number of people at Red Cat and Fat Shark have already listed intent to sell shares. So they can do it at any time. I don't know if they've offloaded them yet, but they have listed intent to offload quite a substantial amount of their shares already. So I do wonder if this is designed to help pump the numbers up on that quarter so the share value goes up. And then dump their shares on the market. That's me just being a cynical. And let me be clear, I have no insider information. I'm not accusing anyone of doing anything underhanded. I'm just saying, could that be the case? I don't know. What's Red Cat's share price today? Let's have a look. To be fair, all share prices are going to be pretty grim looking at the moment, aren't they? There's going to be nothing particularly great looking at anyone's share price in the current market. So we shouldn't read into too much. But, oh dear. So the share price was at $2.59 a share, and today it's at $1.47. Quite a drop. But we are already in the fourth quarter, and the 30 days will be over before January 1st. Yeah, I don't know what their accountancy period is. I don't know if they've got any different accounting periods. It was something that was actually mentioned to me, and it wasn't my thought, and I just thought, oh, that's quite interesting. But it is worth remembering, I think Greg and a bunch of others have filed notices of intent to sell a load of shares. No, you can't, Sean. You're fixed on them. So that was that there. Is there still an issue using Walksnail with Crossfire? There was talk of there being interference, yes. I haven't tried it since. I didn't have too many problems. A bit more separation is advised. Still issues with Walksnail and GPS? Yes, that still stands. That still stands. And I did a video on that this week. For those who haven't seen it, we did do the video on it. So that was out there too. Would I buy Red Cat? Hell no. There's your answer to that. I have seen nothing from Red Cat that would even begin to make me consider putting money in. And what I mean by that is this. All I have seen them do is buy businesses. And since buying those businesses, I've not seen them develop a single product. So, let's unpack that. They bought Rotoria, and that's continued. Fair enough. That's a media platform for them. They've bought Fat Shark, and Fat Shark have only sort of developed the Dominators. And how much do we really think the Dominators are Fat Shark's work? Okay, there's no question Greg's hand is in those goggles, because no one else would put an SD card slot in the stupidest place between your eyes rather than underneath where there was tons of space. Only Greg involvement would allow that to happen. Let's be realistic. So clearly the man has had a hand in the design. However, how far, it remains to be seen. some things I had heard was when the goggles were being made, they didn't even know whose chips were in the board. Basically, Fat Shark helped develop the physical goggle. Teal are still building off what they had when Red Cat bought them. I've not seen anything new from Teal. They have expanded quite a bit, but I've not seen anything new. So at this moment in time, I've seen nothing from Red Cat other than a lot of noise, a lot of talk that, yes, they're a major player in the drone industry, and a lot of buying up of companies with VC money. That's all I've seen. Fat Shark have yet to develop something themselves interesting other than help out on the Dominator. And I could be wrong. Hopefully there's stuff around the corner. But hell no. That's not a company I'd be putting my money anywhere near right now. That's just my opinion, obviously. DJI on the blacklist. I'm not convinced. Yeah, it helps Teal. Teal should be able to license to print money right now. But the reality is, people still love DJI. Even the agencies still love DJI. And there's a reason why all these people love DJI. Look, there is a real simple reason why a lot of people love DJI, right? Let's look at this. Just look at products like this. This is why people love DJI. And I don't care what government you are. I don't care where. People want this capability in this platform, and no one else is doing it. Just no one else is getting close to this. Buying Walksnail to the UK and EU will have import charges. Yes, it will. If you're going to buy it, I would advise the 30-day money-back guarantee deal isn't great for the UK. Just look at this. Thermal camera, wide-angle lens, 12 megapixel, 48 megapixel, and a thermal. This is why people love DJI, because no one else is out there able to do stuff like this. Just look at that on a drone that size. It's just incredible. It's just incredible. They make some serious tools these days. We can argue all day long about some of their business practices. We can argue all day long about how they don't always give everyone what they want. But just look at some of the toys. And there becomes a situation where people will just get around the blacklist. People will just find a way around it. They want that technology. DJI do a lot very, very well. And it's easy to complain about them, and I'm the first to complain about them. And I complain about them a lot of the time because I get so frustrated about what they could be, how good they could be. But just look at some of the capabilities on a product. 45 minutes flight time, thermal. Just look at that. It's just fantastic. Just fantastic. It really is. And then if you want to play with the big boy toys, you then heading up to things like the M30, where this thing is just insanity. This just, no one can come close to this thing. Just no one can come close to this thing. When you look at the zoom on this product, it is just incredible. You know, when we look at, where's the when they show you the zoom capability, it's just ridiculous. Look at that heads-up display as well. That's fantastic. That remote looks amazing as well. Do you know what the interesting thing with that remote is? DJI made a remote really similar to this about 8 years ago, and it never came out. Really similar to this about 8 years ago, and they never released it for the Inspire 1. Cool Cat. I discovered some nice infrared viewing gear from Seek for looking at components on board heating. You mentioned you wanted something black and white. Yes, I've been looking at the Seek Pro myself, Cool Cat. I nearly ordered one from Amazon. Although you've got to get it with the macro lens as well. You've got to order the macro lens. But I was looking at getting the Seek Pro model. For those who haven't seen, Amazon. I was looking on Amazon. Let me go back onto here. Funny enough, Seek Pro thermal. I can't remember the Seek thermal camera. I can't remember the model name. There we go. But it's the Pro is the one I need. Now, some places are charging insane money for this, but I did find one much cheaper than that for the Pro. No, it won't be delivered by Drone Bruce. You want the Pro because it's got higher resolution, but it's still $300-400. Unfortunately, £300-400. Unfortunately, you can get the standard Seek, which is much cheaper, but it doesn't have the resolution. You need the Seek Pro. There's a really good video on YouTube about this one. But yeah, they do look very, very good cameras. They sell a little stand. Yeah, I'd 3D print one. Yeah, some really good reviews. Funny enough, I was looking at the reviews. The FLIR 1 Pro also looks interesting, but the Seek looks a better camera, definitely, but you have got to use it with the macro lens, which is about another $50 on top of the price. So you're talking $500-600 then. What do I think of the Emax 2807 motors? They're okay. Emax 2 Eco 2 motors from Emax are decent motors. Never had a problem with the Eco 2s. I'm running them on the 7-inch. I've flown it briefly, but I'm not aware of any major issues. But yeah, I have been looking at a thermal camera for doing electronic repair. I have been looking at one. You've got some nice stuff. The FLIR 1 Pro FLIR 1 Pro looks interesting as well. But yeah, you're talking $400-500. What's the FLIR 1 Pro was the other one I was looking at. That's the LT. I don't want the LT. I want the standard Pro model. 400. Yeah, with iOS, we're talking. But that's 160 by 120 resolution. But if you look at the Seek Pro, the Seek is what's the resolution on the Seek? 320 by 240, so it's a much higher resolution. Yeah, they did, Bruce. They came down. So it's got a better resolution sensor on this one. Some really good videos about these Seek cameras. These Seek ones are very, very good. If you're looking for a thermal one for the bench, definitely one. But that's too much for me. $500 is too much. About $300, I'd be in. £300, I'd be in. 500 is just a bit much. You can get some good pricing on the original one, which has a lower resolution, which is 206 by 156. And I did see some used ones as well. Used, like new, directly from Amazon for £205. I was tempted on that. I was seriously tempted on that to give it a go, to see what that one was like. What's the resolution? So what's the resolution on that is 206 by 156. Wait there, let's go to Amazon again. FLIR 1 Pro. And what's the resolution on the FLIR 1 Pro? Come on. What's the resolution? Doesn't say on that one. Doesn't say. What's the resolution on the FLIR 1 Pro? That one there. 160 by 120. So the other one is still better than the Flare 1 Pro. 160 by 120. So the standard Seek is still a higher resolution than that. That's interesting. That is super interesting. And I'm going to use one for £205. With a macro lens. Yes. Where were you looking at that, Cool Cat? Where was that from with the macro lens? Funny enough, I was looking at them this week. But yeah, I wouldn't mind, definitely wouldn't mind one of these. Definitely wouldn't mind one at all. Definitely good bits of kit. They do work. I just don't know. Did I test the Speedy F4? No, I tested the F7 stack. The F7 I fly all of the time. Absolutely fine. Not tried the F. I did the F4 Mini. No, F7 Mini and F7. F7 and F7 Mini. Yeah. That 200 quid with the 50 quid lens, I'd be really tempted on that. Really tempted on that and see what it's like. I could always return it. What I should do is order it and return it if I don't think it's good enough. Do they make them with Type-C yet? Yeah, there are Type-C versions. Do they do Type-C on the Seek? Yes, Android Type-C. 249. That was the USB micro, but I don't care what connector because I'd cable it up. So I don't care what cable it is. I'd convert it and cable it. I may give that a shot. What's my opinion on the best flight controllers for iNav? Ooh, I don't know these days. Texas tends to be the biggest player for iNav, but I've had a few problems with their gear recently. I did see that topped-on TC001 MC Medium Film. Maytech, I think it's always Maytech for iNav. Maytech are probably the better solution for iNav. Still rather USB-C than no micro USB though. Yeah, it depends the cost. If it's like 50 quid, so I just go for the standard USB and convert it. I would, just for that cost difference. It's not worth it. If I was buying it brand new, I'd go for the USB-C. But just looking here, I can get one for £200. Which is quite cheap. Will I do a review about that Seek module? If I ordered one in, I would be tempted to, yeah. If I ordered one in, definitely. Definitely handy. Definitely handy to have. I'd like to get the Pro. The Pro would be the one I would like. But the Seek, when I've looked at them, the Pros are still a bit expensive. RS232 for the win. You know, if we look down at the topped-on, I've seen these topped-on ones. Someone mentioned about earlier, was it topped-on TC001? Topped-on TC001. Ah, yes. I did look at that on Amazon. I don't know what that's like. I looked at this, right? And I could find, like, no reviews of it at all. Like, no reviews of it. Does the Seek allow you to do a thermal camera overlay? Yes, I can't remember. There are some good reviews of the Seeks. I think it does. I don't know what this thing is like. There's like no reviews out there of this camera. I looked on Amazon and it clearly exists, right? Let me just find it on Amazon UK. I did see this. Here it is, like £279. High resolution. But there's just no evidence of what this thing is actually like in real world. Telegram. Oh, congrats. I've won a thermal camera. And my only concern with this thing is that you can't add a macro lens. You need a macro lens. So that's why I was going with the Seeks, because you do need a macro lens to be able to look up closely. So if you're going to do this, you need to get one with a macro lens. The Seek, if you check on YouTube, some really good reviews of the Seek Thermal Pro. There's some people doing tests with them. FLIR 1 Pro versus the Seek Compact Pro. Here we go. There's a good video here on this I looked at the other day, which shows the difference. And he shows... Let's just have a look here. Where is it? He's going through the specs. Here we go. So he's showing you at the top the Seek versus the FLIR. So you can see there is a difference between them and how they show stuff. But he doesn't really show this on a board level. I think he's showing it as an electrician. The FLIR definitely shows more detail. Let me just... No, it's not that one. I'm looking for one. There is a review, which is a board repair of it. For board repair. Ah, here we go. Now, this gentleman, this is the one I watched the other day. He compared all three cameras. So he goes through each one at a time, showing you each camera on a board repair. Got to wait for the advert. So he shows, that's it there on the little stand. And that's the macro lens. And then you can see that's how it looks on, that's the Seek Compact with the macro lens. But that's on an iPhone board. So that is really, really small. You know, they are tiny boards. For most of the stuff we do, I think it would probably be okay. But you can see it there. And then you can see what the component was. And then he moved over to the Pro. Which one's this? That's the XR. Ignore the XR. And then he moved over to the Pro. Here we go. This was the Pro. And the Pro just had more detail. Definitely had more detail. And he goes in and shows that now. And when he was showing it there, you can just see a lot more detail on the board. On the Pro. But I think the standard one might be okay. I think the standard one might be okay. Might be okay. It's something I have been looking at. Funny enough, we both must have been looking at it this week, Cool Cat, because we come across the same cameras. So the Seek is definitely the one to go for. Test me to have them for 200 quid. Do they? Have a look. Ah, yeah. Oh, it's excluding VAT. Yeah. XR and then the Pro. The XR is not worth looking at, if I recall. But no, so it is interesting. We've all been looking at the same things this week. Do I know a way to test USB cable for data versus charge cord, like an actual tester or Apple plugin, rather than plugging in an FC to beta flight? There should be USB-C cable testers. There's no easy way with USB-C because it's always easy. It's not the first one you try. That's a good point. Yeah, it's always the one that plays up. There will be USB cable testers out there on Amazon. I would guess there'd be USB-C cable tester. USB-C cable tester. I'm guessing there's USB-C cable testers out there. Amazon would be where I bet there'd be a cheap one. USB-C cable tester. There's got to be a USB-C cable tester out there. They must exist. They definitely must exist. I'm not aware of one, but they must exist. Cheaper to buy a data cable and label it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not aware of any, but there are definite cable testers out there. Definite cable testers out there. Okay, guys, if you've got any questions, please do put them in the chat before we wrap this one up. So, we've discussed DJI, we've discussed the avatar thing. With regards to avatar, I think I'm pretty close now on being able to say, look, it's a viable system. I'm not going to say it's the best system. I'm not going to say it's the worst system. I'm pretty close to being able to take it out of beta status. My opinion has been, to this point in time, it's still beta, and that stands today. But I'm getting to the point where I'm now saying, okay, I think it's probably fair to say it's no longer a beta product. And I will discuss that a little bit further on once we get it. Still enjoying the AOS 5 bind and fly? Yeah, do you know what? I flew the Avatar rig today. And its 4S drastically underpowered compared to the AOS 5. That thing is just such a nice quad. Such a nice quad. I haven't flown much in the last 2 weeks, but that is hands down my favorite drone. It really, really is. I still fly a lot of 4S craft, and you forget, jump between 4 and 6S, the power difference between the two. There's so much more power in 6S. It's ridiculous. It really is. It's night and day. And the Avatar bird's a bit of a heavy bird as well. I haven't pushed it too far yet, but I'm not the best bando pilot in the world. I need to jack things up a little bit. It's a very nice quad, though. I got to put another motor bolt in because I took one out of the beach to get a stone out of it after I had a harsh landing. GoPro 11 Black Mini 2 release in 2 full days. I still, Billy, get out of my dreams and get into my car, by the way. I still not convinced the Mini is a good deal. At all. At all. I am not convinced for the weight savings it's a good deal. Cool Cat, the AOS 5 looks at beauty. It's a lovely quad. Lovely quad. Has anyone ordered the Bot Grinder frame yet? The Caddx Walnut. Now, that's an interesting subject. I have a video ready to publish on that product, but it's probably out of date. Now, I'm waiting to hear back from Caddx about what's going on, because apparently there's a firmware update coming, which means I'm going to have to go retest it all again and re-edit the video. So I don't know. I don't know. I need to speak to Caddx. In fact, let me send Caddx a message. No. Let me just find them. Here we go. iOS 3.5 version 2. I like the walnut. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I do like it. I think for its price, it's okay. Now, has anyone else published videos on this camera? Am I the only one? I haven't actually looked. Has anyone else actually published now? So, Adventure put the walnut up 3 days ago. There's so none of us have really published content on it. Can you order it from Caddx? Can you actually order this product yet? I want to search. It's not double L, it's walnut. Walnut. No, so it's still not listed on their website. So this product doesn't exist. So I'm probably breaking an NDA that I haven't signed right now. Yet, look, you can go on Banggood, look! And Cool Components. No, you can't. And Unmanned Tech Shop in the UK. There it is. So I don't know what's happening. It's bizarre. I had a video waiting to go and I was told not to release it. Yeah, that video is probably out of date now. And this is the problem when manufacturers do this stuff. It messes you around. And I'll be honest, I don't know if I can be asked to go and refilm it again. Yes, it's got an internal battery. And this is the problem. You know, I'm not at a manufacturer's beck and call. I have a video which I've made where I think it's okay. It's not perfect. It's not terrible. The battery life isn't very good. You'd be lucky to get 20 minutes. Image quality is okay, although it is getting some jello in the footage, and it has some horrible lens flare between the two glasses because it has an external glass and a front glass. It does get flare. It does get flare, especially off their ND filters. It needs back-coated ND filters for sure. Does it fit the session mount? I haven't tried it in a session mount, but it's basically the same size. It's not a bad camera. There is a reason I haven't published my Thumb Pro video. Runcam did send me a Thumb Pro, and I haven't made a video, and I haven't released a video. And there you go. That tells you what you need to know. It's okay, but it's got some issues. I can't stop the jello. No matter what I do, it jellos. It just jellos all of the time. And the image quality isn't great. It's okay. My one just jellos all of the time. No mask. Yeah, Bruce, that's the problem, innit? Yeah, it's such a small camera. But we're going to have to wait on the walnut. I like the walnut. I think the walnut's a nice camera. I don't think it's terrible. Someone just said they're going to update it to improve the image quality. Okay, interesting. Is it possible to get video in the Walksnail goggles? No, it isn't. Why is it so hard to get a camera right? Yeah, and I think GoPro are probably the only one who still have it absolutely right today. I'm just not convinced the small version is a good deal. I'm just not convinced. Time to talk about my pile of unreleased videos. Yeah, there's a few there right now. Really, this week. So what you're going to get on the channel this week, we're going to have, hopefully, the Avata RF video. I don't have a lot in the can right now. It's a bit quieter. I'm in the process of waiting for some stuff to happen. The channel's going to be a bit quieter for a bit. We've had all of the noise. We've had all of the crazy stuff. Now we're going to wait for things to calm a little bit now, and then we'll get on top of the DJI release. You know, if what we're hearing is right, it's going to be like 3 weeks, so we're going to have to wait and see. I don't have it today, so I can't talk about it. I can't film it. I can't do anything about it. But we're going to have to just wait and see. I am thinking of doing a full teardown on the Avata because I still haven't seen one. I've been waiting and waiting for a full teardown on the Avata, and no one has done it. No one has showed the actual boards. No one has showed any of the real internals heavily, unless I've missed it. I've looked for teardowns. I've looked for images. I've looked for PCBs. There's none. So this week you may get a full teardown of the Avata. You've seen the board. How close? I want proper images for repair.wiki. And I'm not talking that far from the camera and go, oh yeah, look, there's the board. I want proper images. None of this, there it is, look. So if anyone has seen proper images of the Avata, it's PCBs. No, someone removed the bottom for a motor swap. Yeah, I've seen like teardowns like that, and someone have it on a desk where they've like showed it in bits, but that's not a teardown. I want to see the boards. If we can get them out, I want to see them. With someone changing the motors. Yeah, we've had a few people change the motors. We want to see every part. I want images for repair.wiki. Because we have them for the, you know, we want this. This is what we want. So repair.wiki. So for those who don't know, I do a bit of uploading onto repair.wiki. We go into drones. And if we go into Goggles 2, and if you look on Goggles 2, we've got full teardown PCB images. This is what we want. This is what we want. We want to see the inside out of it. And there's the back of the PCB there. We want to be able to understand the full circuit. That's, and I've been waiting to see if someone did it. That's the internal antennas. If those who haven't seen on the Goggles 2, I was provided this image. That's the internal PCB antennas on the frame fan at the front. Let me zoom in for you. It's not the greatest image, that one. But that does show you the internal images on the antennas on the Goggles 2, look. Ah, we know what's under the goo. So that's what we want. We want proper images of this stuff. This man took his apart far further than I did. I stopped at that level there because it was going to damage it territory. Matt, any updates on the Foxeer HDZero VTX? No, what I'd heard is they've gone back to the drawing board because they were basically going to release a HDZero race version 2 under the Foxeer brand, but I've heard that they've gone back and they're designing it from scratch, is what I've heard. But I don't know any more than that. And we want to be able to upload all of the stuff like this onto repair.wiki and show you guys how to fix the stuff as well. So for instance, if you now go under, if we go under, where am I looking for here? We're looking for the Avatar VTX. For those who go under here now, you will see that there's new repair sections added at the bottom showing you the pinouts, how to actually repair damaged UARTs and where the UART pins are located, as well as things like the voltage regulator outputs as well, all labeled up, telling you where the voltage regulator outputs are, so you can test your VTX yourself if you have a damaged one. With the IC part number as well, CPS533 for that. Not that we can actually get it, but it's CPS5333. I wish we had the schematics. And then we also go on to talk about this has a habit of dying. This system management IC. We've had two Avatar VTXs now with the Dialog DA9062 dies. So you get a short to ground on the voltage reg, and that dies. And then we have all of that. So, you know, we're building up the stuff. It is all on repair.wiki. It is all there. We also have one of the new chipsets from the Avatar here I need to upload. You know, we got the Scout HDs, the teardowns for them as well, with the internal boards on the HDZero. On that too. So I'm hoping to get the Avatar up there. I'd like to get the Avatar up. I've been waiting for someone to post, because someone usually does it. Looks like it's going to have to be me. Okay, so that is it for tonight's stream. There hasn't really been a lot of news this week, other than that. We're waiting on the HDZero goggles. They will be around the corner. If you find this video interesting, please do give us a like. Really, next week, we should be back, same time, same place. We'll discuss whatever news happens this week. I'm sure we'll start to probably see now more and more leaks from the DJI system. And what we'll then do is, obviously on the build up to it, hopefully I'll be talking about it. There is a couple of videos I'm working on this week. As I said, we're going to be doing the RF video for the Avatar, which is quite a complicated one. I need to start looking at that a bit further, but then I want to align that with the RF video that we're going to have on that other system. But no, so that's it from me. Thank you for watching. If you have found the video interesting, please do consider checking out the links to my Patreon in the description. I want to say a massive thank you to all of my Patreons. I would not have been able to keep the channel going without your support. We're on the road to 34K. See you again, same time, same place next week. Now it's time for me to find the button. Number 1. Number 2.